This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or exclusive Patreon only gameplays, then feel free to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. Krav Regna versus Wydwen the Biting Gale, Saskia the Unyielding, and Karametra, God of Harvests. Now then, I, like a complete dope, forgot to hit the record button until we got to turn 5. Luckily, I checked on it. So, we're going to have to attempt to make our way to turn 5 in the replay function here, and just hope that it doesn't bug out on us. As you can see, it's a Felwar stone with the incorrect border from Dolfo. And then Valdrieg going into a rampant growth. I've been mispronouncing Valdrieg's name for the past few games, so it is pronounced Valdrieg and not Valdrieg like I've been saying it. Yes, a rampant growth, fixing a bit more mana. And then Wydwen going crazy with a Soul Ring straight into a Signet. And then tapping out and passing to us with our paltry 1 mana. So I just decided to go in for a blind obedience here because we're seeing rocks and we haven't actually seen any creatures yet. But then Dolfo decides to get down a blind obedience of his own and plays the Incubation Druid, which comes down tapped due to ours. So all the rocks and creatures are going to come into play tapped as it stands now. Valdrieg getting a Cultivate and ramping themselves up to their commander. Then the Fairy player just deciding to get up to 6 mana and pass the turn rather ominously. They're probably holding up their Wydwen with Flash. We get into Authority of the Consuls, which is really good life gain in this deck. Oh, and one thing I did mention in the recording, but wasn't actually recording it. This deck is based around the original, which was made by an Australian viewer called Birchie. And I played it a very long time ago. I don't know when it was, but I played his version of the deck. I've made sufficient changes to it, enough to call it my own now, I think. But just for transparency's sake, it is Birchie's, and I don't know if he still watches, but hello Birchie, if you do. Obviously played the Ophiomancer, which brings in a tapped Death Toucher, so it's nowhere near as good for blocking. And then Karametra comes down, the first commander of the game. Followed by a Deathbringer Liege, and I really like this cycle of cards, so I'm intrigued to see, or I should say I was intrigued to see what my opponent was planning to do with those. And at the end of the turn, the Wydwen comes down for Home Doggy as well. Haven't mentioned Home Doggy, running the Wydwen Fairy Tribal deck. And then starting on Home Doggy's turn, they are going to continue to hold up mana, and they swing in over at Dolfo for 3 points of commander damage. We draw into Crested Sunmare, which should go well with the blind obedience. We just want removal out of the way first. And Crested Sunmare is nowhere near as good when the horses are coming down tapped. So we need to think about getting rid of blind obedience as well. I decide to go in for a land and clamp the snake there, so we've drawn a couple of extra cards. And then deciding to put a clamp on the Ophiomancer as well for when that inevitably gets destroyed. I'm just thinking about this thing because Valdrieg can bring in their commander, which is black and white, trigger that, and it can destroy something in play. The snake replaces itself, but it comes in tapped on Karametra's turn. And they go for Kodama's Reach. And then into Ghostly Prison, so I'm wondering if this is Enchantress or a Pillow Fort deck of some kind at this point. And then I think this is where I managed to hit the record button. I do blind checks every now and then just to make sure that the video is still recording, and obviously saw this time that I never bothered to hit record at all, so this is where I remembered to hit the record button, and I will leave you all here. Hope you enjoy the rest of it. Apologies to everyone, I am starting the game a few turns in because completely forgot to hit the record button, which is absolutely my fault. I imagine I'll splice in Valdrieg is going for Saskia there, and they can tap and destroy the Ophiomancer, which is exactly why I've put the Skull Clamp on there. Yeah, completely messed that up. I imagine you've already seen the commanders. I'll splice something in at the beginning of the game. The Deathbringer Liege coming in at us. Nothing says come and beat me up like a skull clamp. But we've got on our lands anyway. I went for that so early because we weren't getting into lands. Now there is trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Alright, so that's going to be really bad next turn. We're already hoping for a board wipe, I'm sure. And it seems as though Home Doggy, playing the Wydwen deck, wants to play at flash speed. They went for a snuff out onto Kenra Charioteer, which takes trample off of all these things, so we should be able to chump block quite nicely there. I don't know if I'm going to clamp the snake or not. And following that up on their turn with a Gilded Lotus, which does come in tapped. Blind Obedience is really good against rocks. Oh, and I forgot to crack the Polluted Delta. Oh well. We've got a Yawgmoth. I think I want to do some more setting up before we go in for Yawgmoth. We've got tapped creatures coming in, so Liliana isn't going to be very well protected. How much is Regna to get out? She is 6, so I'd probably want her out with Authority of the Consuls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then just playing it safe, let's go for a Karlov as well. Let's go for Karlov and Authority of the Consuls. And then again, we can put the clamp onto Karlov just in case someone wipes the board or makes use of their Deathbringer Liege. Now a Farhaven Elf from Dolfo playing the Karametra deck. And that will get them 2 lands, one from the Farhaven Elf and one from Karametra. Authority of the Consuls will trigger when the creature enters, which will gain us a life, and that will dump a bunch of counters on the Karlov. So I've got great hopes for Karlov in multiplayer. Never played this card. I do have a 1v1 deck of Karlov, but I imagine it'll get massive in a multiplayer game. And then a Rites of Flourishing, that's a scary one. We can each play an additional land on each of our turns and draw an additional card. So let's get this game moving, says Dolfo. Karametra has been animated now as well, by the way. And they're going to decide if they want to attack. They are going in at Doggy and deciding to block with that, surprisingly, so they might be after a board wipe. Unless they have some kind of protection. Oh, I see. I forgot about the ability on that. So apparently for 2 mana, they can bounce their commander back to their hand. Might set them up nicely for a lot of damage from Saskia. I think I'd rather have blocked Saskia, to be honest, because it kind of has double strike. Rites of Flourishing triggers for Saskia, and as much as I'm worried about Karametra over here feeding Saskia a bunch of cards, seems like a very frightening proposition. Now Valdry going in for Drum Hunter. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 5 or greater, you may draw a card and it taps for colourless. And then Saskia is going in at Karametra. They've paid 2 for that, to the Ghostly Prison. And the Liege going in at Home Doggy. So nothing coming in at us thanks to our Death Toucher. Now from the Fairy player, we're looking at Dire Undercurrents. Whenever a blue creature enters under your control, you may have a target player draw a card. Whenever a black one enters, you may have a target player discard a card. And they do have the mana for their commander, which is back in their hand now. So at the end of the turn, we'll go in for that shock land that I should have gotten out last turn. And in response, that looks like Swords to Plowshares from Dolfo, I imagine. It's not telling me. But I imagine that's coming from Dolfo onto the Karlov, because they're most likely worried about their Karametra. And then Rites of Flourishing triggers on our turn as well. We draw an additional card and we can play a few lands. Utter End will deal with the Karametra as well. So let's play our 2 lands. So do we go Utter End? That'll be 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then we can't go Crested Sunmare as well. What to do here? We could really do with a board wipe, to be honest. Crested Sunmare paints a target on us is the problem. Let's go for Ashnod's Altar paints a target on us as well. Let's go for Ashnod's Altar and we can hold up the Utter End. I don't want to throw out the Crested Sunmare unless we're getting in untapped stuff. So as much as I'd like to use Utter End, on that Karametra. Might have to use it on the Blind Obedience. We'll just give the game another run round the table and then we'll see what we're looking at with this utter end. It is a Grand Abolisher. Yeah, as much as I don't like it, I'm going to go utter end onto the Blind Obedience. And I dare say for that we're going to end up with a Karametra swinging in our way. Going for Transmogrifying Wand. And that is a tap ability, so again hurting our opponents with the Blind Obedience. Now let's see if Dolfo wants to swing in at us for getting rid of their Blind Obedience. Nope, they're not being reactionary and just going after us because we took some of their stuff away. They're going in at Saskia and dealing 6 points of commander damage to Saskia. Valdry going for a bit more ramp in the 3 visits. And following that up with an Adriana, which is a white creature and can tap down our snake. And then making use of the melee by swinging in with 3 creatures. The Drum Hunter and the Deathbringer Liege coming in at us. And then the Saskia is going in at Delpho. And then it looks like Doggy is doing something in response. They are going for an evacuation, saving us some life there. So I can't say I'm all that disappointed in the evacuation there, to be honest. I wonder if they'll wish later on that they'd save that for themselves. Oh, sorry, just looking at the... Oh, they did save themselves with it. Saskia was actually attacking Home Doggy there, which is why they went for the evacuation, saved themselves some commander damage. I thought it was swinging in over at Karametra. Karametra just went back to the hand with a bunch of creatures, by the way, so that's going to be even more ramp for Dolfo. But it also means that Saskia's going to have to discard some stuff here. They get rid of that Dream Hunter, the Huatley, and a Kolaghan the Storm's Fury, which is not as useful when someone's got a Blind Obedience in play. Doggy now transmuting a Muddle the Mixture. Hopefully it's not a Rift. It is a Bitter Blossom that they went for. So, starting to get some fairies on the go. We get into a couple of lands. I don't think the Urborg is going to help anyone particularly, so we'll just throw it out immediately. And after a board wipe, I think it's just as good a time as any to go for Liliana. The haste is switched off by the Blind Obedience, assuming it stays in play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And then we could even go for Yawgmoth, but that puts a huge target on us, doesn't it? Yeah, let's just go for Liliana. And then we will extort. Say yes to that. I was actually going to go for the Regna here, but seeing as how there's no creatures on board, it's the best time we're going to get to play Liliana. Now, there's still a Wydwen over here that can come in at the end of Saskia's turn and swing in at the Liliana, but we can force them to sacrifice it, I suppose, although they could bounce it in response. Anyway, we've made the decision now, so let's just go for the Clamp onto the zombie. And then I think we're going for Regna next turn. I'm just thinking about those flyers now, or at least one flyer in our opponent's hand. I think might have been a better idea to go for Regna because everyone's going to be replaying their creatures this turn, triggering the authority of the consuls and giving us a bunch of warriors. But we'll see what happens. Karametra comes down immediately for Dolfo, so they're just going to go in for Karametra into their creatures again, I imagine. Yeah, they're just playing out the creatures that they already had, so maybe Dolfo didn't draw into new creatures. Out comes the Incubation Druid again. Now it is a Vivian Reed from our opponent that can destroy an artifact enchantment or creature with flying. I dare say that's coming after our Blind Obedience. I'd actually rather it went on that than the authority of the consuls, and it does. Go straight on to there. A haste deck really doesn't want a Blind Obedience in play. We do have Sun Titan in the deck, so we could fish that back out. And I imagine this is their commander again. And that has haste and vigilance, but they've still got our authority of the consuls to consider. So it still comes in tapped. At least everyone will be able to have their rocks come into play untapped now. And there is Wydwen, the biting Gale. they'll be able to draw a card and have someone discard a card here. And they're going for us discarding. I had a feeling they'd do that. So let's see. What do we want to discard? I think the Crested Sunmare is going to paint too much of a target onto us. Although, yeah, Requiem Angel is a situational card, so we'll get rid of that. And then Doggy's turn will begin, and they'll get a Bitter Blossom Fairy. And they're targeting us again, so going after our hand. Let's just sacrifice this zombie. And then we can draw 3 cards and maybe have a better choice of what we want to discard. We can't block the flyer anyway. Alright, there's a Thought Vessel. That's probably what we're getting rid of so far. Yeah, I think we get rid of Thought Vessel there. Then a Phyrexian Arena for some more card draw from Wydwen. Followed by a Swiftfoot Boots for their commander. And they deal 3 to Liliana here. And that'll still leave us on -4, sack 2 creatures, so we need to decide if we want to do that or not. It will kill off our Liliana. And then they've got the Manland, of course, so that is actually 5 damage to Liliana. So we're just making a zombie with her next turn, apparently. Then at the beginning of our upkeep, Wydwen is continuing to go for... Okay, that's a Mistbind Click. Tap all lands a target player controls. Wow. Alright. And they do target us, so let's go for that human. And then, yeah, we just get our lands tapped, so we'll have to leave it there. We get into one of the only tap lands in the deck, unfortunately. So we'll play that. Would have been nice to be able to go for something else this turn. We'll certainly go for a zombie with Liliana. And then let's go for Mana Crypt. We'll sacrifice a zombie to draw a card. Alright, Tainted Field, there's one. Let's go for a Skull Clamp onto the human. Just seeing if we can get into an untapped land here. We'll draw 3 cards off of that human. 2 from Skull Clamp, 1 from Lily. And there we are, getting into an untapped land there. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just try this Crested Sunmare. We actually don't have enough white. That's annoying. So instead, we should just get down the Krav. Yeah, Crested Sunmare would have been really good there. Yeah, we'll just get down the Krav and that'll have to be it for the turn. Yeah, the Liliana has drawn us a lot of hate, so definitely shouldn't have played that on the last turn. It's often a good time to play your Planeswalkers after a board wipe. But I think we should have gone in for the Regna. Now Dorfo going in for the Amulet of Vigour. That's a really good one with Karametra. So the lands will be untapped when that comes in. Another really good one. Oh, Ketra's Monument. So out comes that Grand Abolisher again. And Valdrig pointing out that the Amulet is actually, whenever a permanent enters, not lands. I always thought this was lands because that's what I use it for, but it actually untaps the things that come in tapped with Authority of the Consuls, so that's a good little counter towards that. Now a Transmogrify goes on to our commander. Yeah, the Liliana's drawing some hate here, I think. I actually only went for my commander there because it was pretty much the only thing that we could cast. Really would have liked the Crested Sunmare. But I suppose they would have gone for the Transmogrifying Wand onto the Crested Sunmare as well. We kind of have to play around this until all the counters are removed from it. Then it is a Smothering Tithe for Karametra. And then just the Karametra going in at Liliana, I think. Yeah, Saskia probably comes in at us and leaves the Fairy player to take out Liliana. But we'll force them to make that choice anyway. We'll block with the Ox and it will die and draw us a card. And we'll see if we can get anywhere close to that board wipe. We've got a few in the decks and we're not able to draw into them so far. Vivian Reed going for the plus from Valdrig. Look at the top 4. Reveal a creature or land and put it into your hand. And they reveal a Ravos Soul Tender. Followed by a Skyshroud Claim. Then down comes that Deathbringer Liege again. And that bumps their Saskia up to a 5/6, and they do come in at us with that. Which makes sense, we're at the highest life total. They'll do 5 points of commander damage to us, and then 5 direct damage from Saskia's ability. Knocking us down by 10. and leaving the fairy player to deal with Liliana. And then Doggy continues to point the discard at us. We just need to get through this, really. And we've got the Lightning Greaves. Yeah, I'm going to go for Shambling Vent, and hopefully we'll draw into another land. Because if we're going for our commander into Lightning Greaves, I'm hoping that it'll land, but we have to get through white mana and some counter magic that maybe the fairy player has. Then a Grim Tutor, that goes into the hand with that one, doesn't it? Yeah, so tutoring for a card. Then the Wydwen going in at Liliana, as you would expect, and Mistbind Click going in at Vivian. I do like that, because I was actually thinking of D-Spark onto Vivian, because I don't want to lose my Lightning Greaves. My plan currently is to go in for Regna, finally. Maybe it would be a better idea to go for Crested Sunmare, but we're having discard pointed at us. So I'll try and get our commander down with the Lightning Greaves. Then it is a Flood of Tears. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-tokens this way, you can put one from your hand onto the battlefield. They go for that Gilded Lotus again. I don't know if that hurts us too much. It actually sets us up nicely for the Authority of the Consuls into our commander. If we've got the mana to do that, they replay their Phyrexian Arena. Going in for the Signet, so maybe they just hold up mana for their commander. Apparently not. Playing out the Bitter Blossom again. Their commander costs 4, so they can't go for that now. And then they're going for the Swiftfoot Boots as well, so I'm assuming there's no counters over that way. So it's no additional land for us this time, and no additional card draw either, but we've got a grip full anyway. We could have played these 2 lands if it wasn't for the fact that everything got bounced. So let's play a land, play the Crypt, and then we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 mana. We definitely want Authority of the Consuls, so that takes us down to 13. We want the Lightning Greaves, taking us down to 11. Yeah, I say we just get down our Regna. Then we go Greaves onto the Regna. And then we've got 8 cards in hand, so we can go for... Yeah, let's go for the Blood Artist. And we'll hold up that D-Spark along with the Phyrexian Tower. And then I'm going in at home Doggy, because they're being the biggest pain in the neck thus far. Amulet of Vigour straight away for Dolfo, and I imagine they're going for their commander yet again. They've done a good job dodging the command attacks on that, actually. Karametra comes down, and the Farhaven Elf does as well, gaining us life with the Authority of the Consuls. And therefore we'll get some warriors at the end of the turn. This is at the beginning of each end step. And the Incubation Druid comes down as well and untaps itself with Amulet of Vigour. So we're back up to 50 life. And for the 3rd time, I think it is, the Grand Abolisher. Then playing out the Ghostly Prison again, along with the Felwar Stone. And that animates the Karametra. Then tapping out, and Regna will trigger at the end of the turn, giving us some warriors. So as long as Saskia plays a creature here, we'll get a couple more warriors next turn. Our opponents do know about the Skull Clamp in our hand. And it is a Carpet of Flowers for Valdrieg. Number of islands a player controls. There's one. Just one, I think. Yeah, they can go for an island with the Polluted Delta, but they've got enough blue mana. So, not as good as it usually is, the Carpet of Flowers. It is a Balefire Liege, so maybe they've got most of the lieges in here, or at least the ones that tie up with our opponent's commander. It's only one creature that we needed to see. We'll gain 1 point of life from Authority of the Consuls. Been really happy with this card so far. We haven't gotten into any other life game, really. So that's been a really good card for us. Then the Deathbringer Liege comes in. And they will gain 3 life. I think I might have to get rid of the Deathbringer Liege. Our Regna triggers yet again. And assuming that the fairy player goes for a creature on their turn. Oh, actually, the Bitter Blossom will trigger the Authority of the Consuls, won't it? It's whenever a creature enters, not when one's cast. The Dire Undercurrents comes out again. And then a Fairy Artisans from my opponent. I really like that one. That's in my Broodiclad deck. And that's whenever someone plays out a creature, they will get a copy of it. So we're going to have to be careful going for our Yawgmoth. And did they bounce that fairy that taps us out at the beginning of the turn? The Mistbane? Oh, I think they... What is it called? Mistbane Click, I think it's called. I think they did. Ugh, I think they did. So does that just mean we have to take a turn off again? That's really annoying. So if they're going in for that Mistbane Click again, I don't think it's been exiled or destroyed, has it? I think it went away with the evacuation. Yeah, if they've got that, then we're going to have to hold on to Despark, and I might just exile it so that they don't keep bouncing it and making us miss turns all the time. Regna triggers for a third time in a row. Well, they didn't go for that if they do have it. Let's go for Ashnod's Altar. I don't think we really have any combos in this deck with Ashnod's Altar, but it is the type of thing that our opponents will be afraid of. Goes well with the Dictate of Erebos and the, what's it called? The Grave Pact. Yeah, so getting counter magic out of the hand there, that's good. Although they couldn't have countered our commander with that anyway. And let's go for the Krav. Our opponent will get a copy of the Krav with the Fairy Artisans. The Dire Undercurrents will probably come in at us. Yes, it does. They've targeted us with that all game. We are the... yeah, I think we're the biggest threat at the table at the moment. Let's just discard Read the Bones. And then if we're going to be continuously targeted with the spot removal, I think we should go for the Skull Clamp and see if we can get that through counter magic. We can. So we'll definitely go after a warrior. And we'll refill our hand. Let's go after the blue player. Again, they're being the biggest thorn in our side. And we get into Teferi's Protection. That's really good. Go for another Clamp. Alright, we've got some lands to make now. We could go for Yawgmoth. Yeah, let's see about swinging in at Saskia. I don't want to swing in over here because that Mistbane Click is a 4-4 and I can't remember what happened to that. I think it's still in their hand. So let's go like that. Swinging 4 commander damage at the Saskia player. And then we can hold up 3 mana for the Teferi's Protection and a sack outlet in the Phyrexian Tower. Now, it's noteworthy that we can't go for Teferi's Protection during Dorfal's turn, thanks to the Grand Abolisher. Okay, a Multani. That is going to be huge. And hopefully it doesn't have haste, because that's a big reaching trampler. And that will replace the Fairy Artisans Krav with a Multani of their own. Then a Shadow Worm Convergence. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, so it seems to be a kind of pillow fort deck to me, as opposed to Enchantress. At the beginning of your end step, you get a worm token as well. And out comes that Transmogrifying Wand again. That will be able to get rid of our Krav if our opponent wants it to. And now the Karametra swinging in for, I think that's more points of... Yes, they're already on 6 points of commander damage. And then, as I assumed, the Transmogrifying Wand goes on to Krav. We can't do anything in response thanks to this thing. So down goes our Krav for a second time. Would have been able to recast it quite easily if it wasn't for the fact that this got countered, but I'd rather the Ashnod's Altar went down to a counter than the Skull Clamp, to be honest. And that's funny, in response to the Carpet of Flowers triggering, Home Doggy actually went for another island, so that is more mana for the Saskia player. They're going to get 2 green mana here instead of just the 1 that they would have gotten had Home Doggy have waited. Ooh, a Nyxbloom Ancient. That has Despark written all over it. They will have... I mean, they can tap the mana in response is the problem. But they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. That is 18 mana available to them at the moment. And they give the Fairy player a copy of it. So we'll have to see if they get down another creature here. I dare say they will. Just going for Saskia mana, I think. And yes, they trigger both abilities on the Balefire and Deathbringer Liege. Okay, going after our Blood Artist, as I assumed they would. And then the Lightning Helix comes straight at our face. I think I would have gone after the Grand Abolisher personally, but maybe Saskia doesn't want to do things during anyone else's turn. So do we just want to protect our stuff here? I don't think I want to burn a Teferi's Protection just to protect the Blood Artist. Alright, now the blue player going in for something. Hopefully it's not Mass Bounce yet again. No, they're going for their Wydwen. And then the Dire Undercurrents triggers on Wydwen entering. And we'll see if they continue to target us with the discard. Looks like they are doing. Yep, so we discard again. Really want to get rid of Home Doggy here. Blue players can be a real pain to play around. We'll just get rid of a Verdant Catacombs. So down goes the Blood Artist. And we have that saved to Home Doggy. So Home Doggy gets drained by 1. And that means that they have a black creature enter, which means they continue to target us. We'll go and get rid of the land tax. And down comes that Adriana again, deciding to tap down our Ox and then Lightning Helix straight onto us. And now out comes that Ravos the Soul Tender, which was revealed quite a while ago. So they'll be able to tap something down and kill it. They're going to get rid of our Ox because it's a 2/4. And this gives their other creatures, yeah, I bet it's not Liege Tribal, I bet it's Lord Tribal. Giving your creatures all +1/+1. And therefore doubling up even more damage with Saskia. I bet that's what the plan is, because that goes well with melee as well. A black creature enters over here, so our opponent is going to force us to discard again. I mean, do I want to blow the Teferi's Protection now? Because if they get down black creatures on their turn as well... Yeah, I think I just have to go in for the Teferi's Protection now. Let's sacrifice the tapped warrior. So we could have saved ourselves a few permanents there, but that Dire Undercurrents is a difficult one to play around, especially when you don't know what's in your opponent's hand. They do have 2 blue open, but fortunately for us, they don't have counter magic. Then another Lord for the Saskia, the Bastion Protector. That's a really underplayed one. Indestructible and +2/+2. So all eyes are on us currently, but I think everyone at the table's a threat. They decide to tap down the Worm this time. Yeah, we've got the whole team conspiring against us at this point. And they're really desperate to keep hold of the Multani. So there might be some kind of damage doubler, power doubler, double strike from a True Conviction or something like that over here. I actually think, as it stands now, we're actually the least threatening player at the table, ironically. I know we've got a lot of card drawing, Skull Clamp, but yeah, I don't know. It all depends on the cards we draw into, obviously. And then it doesn't look like the Dire Undercurrents triggering is being pointed at either of these 2 players. And it's just strictly for us, apparently. They get into a Crystal Shard. That's a tough one. We've got plenty of mana, so we should be able to play around that alright. Oh, and there's a Glenalandra Archmage. I do not like that. So we'll just have to see if the hate continues to come our way. I mean, I think we're the least threatening player at the table in terms of board state, but we've just got so much life that players want to come in and take us down a peg, which is understandable. And now Home Doggy, is this finally the Mistbind Click? Yeah, I thought they still had it in hand. Yeah, so they are definitely targeting us. Always good to make sure. Everyone else is tapped out pretty much, so who else would they target? Might as well make a human in that case. And then we can give all of our stuff Death Touch and Lifelink as well. Don't think we're going to use that, but you never know. And then it is D-Spark. I will attempt D-Spark onto the Multani, but the Dimir player is probably going to counter it. But we'll force them to put a minus counter onto Glenalandra anyway. Ah no, they've F6'd, so down goes Multani. So it's just a case of playing out a swamp. So we'll just play the Skull Clamp again while we've got the chance, because we're going to continue to have to discard cards apparently. Archangel of Thune can't be countered by the Glenalandra, so that's good. And there we go, we're tapped out and we've got plenty of lands now. So 2 cards we discard. We probably just get rid of the Strand and the Myriad Landscape. Nothing to do, because we don't have any mana, so let's pass again. And I was just saying to my opponents then, that I'm hoping that this doesn't turn into another 3-hour game. The last game that we played was 3 hours, and too long for my liking. In fact, it's not even that it's too long for my liking, I just don't have the time to consistently play 3-hour games. I've got to edit all these, don't forget, and none of this takes into concern real life and work and stuff like that. So I've been toying with the idea of just doing multiplayers again, and it's something I've gone back and forth on a lot throughout the past year and a half, however long I've been doing this. And yeah, Dolfo just pointed out that the fact that no one scoops and the fact that the patrons bring solid decks makes for really good gameplays, but the games take longer because no one's scooping it up early, you know. So I'm leaning again towards just doing multiplayers, maybe 3 or 4 multiplayers a week. I don't know. I'm gonna send it on a trial run, I think, and see how it does. Anyway, they played out the Smothering Tithe again there whilst I was nattering away. That Rites of Flourishing comes out again, along with a Gyrapor Orrery. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, that player draws 3 cards. And the Oketra's Monument again as well. Dolfo is now at 0 cards in hand. And Home Doggy was just saying in the chat that he has... Well, there's a couple of conversations going on here, but he's assembled an answer for me. Does he have an answer for these two? Is what he should be asking himself as well. Because there's 4 powerful players at the table here. Transmogrify goes on to... Oh yes, that's very good. Getting rid of Glenelendra is a very good move. So the Glenelendra gets targeted down and gives Home Doggy an Ox token. Comes back in with Persist, so they can only counter 1 more non-creature spell. And all of that going in at the blue player. Yeah, so it seems as though Dolfo is on the same line of thinking that I am. Getting rid of the blue player is a good means of bringing this game to a close, I think. So hopefully Dolfo will get rid of all the blockers here, and then Saskia can go in and finish Home Doggy off. It's the only tactic you've got with Dimir, really. You need to drag the game out for long enough to actually win the game and assemble some kind of combo or whatever it is that our opponent's going for. But it can just be a real pain to play around, mass bounce and all that type of thing. Couple of tokens for us and a worm token for Dolfo. We're into Valdrieg's turn now. And it's noteworthy as well that the Bastion Protector has stayed in from the Fairy Artisan in order to keep indestructible on Wydwen. And with the Soul Tender, they are going for a Trample Enabler. So they'll be able to cast that this turn and trample a bunch of damage through. That probably comes in at us because we've got the highest life total. We just haven't gotten into the board wipes. How many board wipes do we have in this deck? We've got quite a few. We didn't get into tutors or board wipes. We've got Austere Command, Decree of Pain, Merciless Eviction, Toxic Deluge. Don't have Damnation. And then we've got Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos as well. So plenty of means of dealing with this type of board state, but we just need to actually draw into it. We'll see where Valdrieg goes anyway. Then down comes the Kenra Charioteer. And they went for a bolt onto us. So I think they're just trying to squeeze in as much damage as they can. I don't know if they've actually done the maths or not. There was quite a big gap between the last play and this one, because there was some real life stuff going on. The Conqueror's Flail comes down, so none of us will be able to do anything during their turn. Following that up with an Ankle Shanker. Creatures you control gain First Strike and Death Touch when it attacks. And they're going to tap down our warrior. I think the Balefire Liege can go at creatures, can't it? Oh no, it has to go at a player. Okay. I think I was saying before that Balefire Liege is a lightning helix and therefore thought that it could go on creatures, but it can't. So, Yeah, if I misspoke earlier, it makes perfect sense that our opponent has been lightning bolting us with that, because it can only go at players. I misremembered that. Alright, so it is Bastion Protector coming in at us, as is Ravos, that has flying, so we can't... Well, we could block with Regna if we wanted to. The Adriana's coming in at us as well, as is Saskia. The Nyxbloom Ancient going in at Dolfo. Then the Black and White Liege coming in at us, and Balefire going in at the Fairy player. That's a total of 53, and then we can block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. So that's 41 points of damage on us, and then it gets doubled up. Yeah, so we're not surviving that. 53 points of damage onto us. We can block 12 of it, but that is still 41. So that will be 82 points of damage onto us. So even with all the life gain, and do we have commander damage? Oh, we've already got 5 points of commander damage on us anyway. So we might have been able to block the Saskia damage, I don't know. I think we would have gone down to commander either way. I suppose if we pile up a bunch of blockers in front of that, then we wouldn't have gone down to commander, but we'd still lose to life total anyway. So there we go, we go down... well, we didn't go down to 9, we went down to more... Oh, we went down to commander. Yeah, so we went down to 9 on our life total, and then Saskia would have triggered and dealt a whole bunch more damage to us. But we went down to commander damage first. So we've got Dolfo at 16 and Home at 14. Dolfo doesn't have any cards in hand, so I don't know how much they can get done. They might get a lucky top deck. But there's a full grip of cards with the Dimir player over there. And Home was trying to strike a deal with Valdrieg before, and I think Valdrieg took them up on it, saying, "Kill me last." And a Dimir player with a bunch of mana, a bunch of permanents, and a bunch of cards in hand doesn't seem like the type of deal you want to strike to me. But I am perfectly happy for the game to draw to a close, because we've been playing for quite a while now, as I said. At the end of Valdrieg's turn, he is activating the Crystal Shard onto his own Mistbind Click. That card. That's been a real pain. Then a black creature enters from Bitter Blossom. The Dire Undercurrents has Valdrieg discard a card. And they get rid of Garner, the Blood Flame. I've been intrigued to see now. I know everyone was worried about our life total, but I've been intrigued to see if the blue player wins this one. Like I said, they've got a bunch of mana and a bunch of cards in hand. So let's see if they can do anything. They said they had an answer for us, but obviously we've been dealt with now, so whatever tactic they have planned, they can direct it towards someone else. A Herald's Horn from Home Doggy. No doubt naming fairies with that. That will make them cost less. Petty Theft. Yeah, they're going for Petty Theft and not the Brazen Borrower. So return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And that went by really quickly as well, so I didn't see what that went on. Let's have a look. It went on the Sandworm Convergence on Dolfo's side. Oh, of course, because it stops flyers from swinging in, doesn't it? Following up with a Sower of Temptation. And how many cards have they drawn from the Dire Undercurrents? Yeah, that's been a really good card in this deck. Swiftfoot Boots then makes its way over to the Sower of Temptation. And they've taken control of Saskia with that, by the way. So it seems as though everything here is going in at Valdrieg. Yes, everything is, so that should be that player down. They go down to 16, and then I dare say there's more than enough damage to double up with Saskia. Oh, but the Saskia didn't trigger there. How does that work? As it enters the battlefield, choose a player. Ah, I didn't realise you chose a player with it. Okay, so Saskia does not take out Valdrieg like I thought it would. And Emeria Shepherd for the Karametra now. That's a really good one to rip off the top. Oh, they've got 2 cards in hand. How does that work? Oh, it's because of the Rites of Flourishing, I dare say. Oh, and they've got the Convergence in hand as well, haven't they? Because that got bounced. Yeah, I was just saying there that the Saskia, I forgot it targets a player, or you choose a player when it enters, so it doesn't just affect anyone that you swing in at. So Valdrig is still in this one and has the chance to take out Home Doggy again. Then playing a Plains, but Fairy Macabre is in play now apparently. Where is that? Oh, you discard it. Okay, I thought you had to sacrifice a creature. So you discard it from your hand, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. So they target the Garnet, the Bloodflame, and Grand Abolisher gets exiled as well, leaving a Kodama's Reach and a Swords to Plowshares in the graveyard. So even if they'd gone Grand Abolisher and gotten down a Plains, the Emeria couldn't have gotten anything out of the graveyard anyway. Now, where does Dolfo go from here? There's how many blockers? Saskia's still up. And the Fairy Rogue is there as well. And they've still got a Crystal Shard, but Dolfo can easily pay for that. So I imagine Karametra gets chumped by the Saskia. And then the Worm goes wide, maybe. Not enough to take either player out. Oh, and of course then there's the Brazen Borrower that can come in with Flash as well. But it can only block creatures with flying, so that's noteworthy. They are just deciding to swing out. They can put counters on this at instant speed, so that might be a tricky block for our opponent. They're going all in. Yeah, Dolfo's had a similar mindset to me this game. Going after the Dimir player is what you ought to prioritise, really. Because if they get into the late game, they start doing all this. Going for Adept on the Incubation Druid. And there we go, a Cyclonic Rift. What's that, the third mass bounce of the game? There was Flood of Tears and the Evacuation as well. I don't mean to gloat, but it does feel good when all your opponents target you and you're just sat here quietly looking at the Dimir player, amassing value. Lots of mana and cards in hand. And when someone starts chatting away and trying to make deals, it means that they've got something in mind, so that's always something that's worth remembering. But I'm feeling a tiny bit smug over here. Dolfo decides to scoop it up after that, which is fair enough. I mean, the game's gone on for too long as it is, and I'm sure he has real life things to be getting on with. Then down comes that Mistbind Click again, and he's going to tap out the Saskia player. This is during their upkeep, so they're doing exactly the same thing that they did to us. My aim was to go for D-Spark onto this because I had a feeling that my opponent wanted to go for Mistbind Click over and over again and play a bit of Solitaire Magic. But we had to point it at the Multani because everyone's eyes were locked on us. And they were going to swing in at us with that, so that took some removal away from us. So Mistbind Click is able to take the Saskia player out of the game. All they have to do is turn sideways at this point. And there we go, turning everything in sideways and taking out Valdrig. So the winner this time is Home Doggy. You let a Dimir player get to the end game and it's likely that they're going to be the winner. But feels really bad to, well, we didn't lose to it, but feels really bad for our opponents to lose to a Cyclonic Rift, but apparently that's how a lot of multiplayer games end. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think about the thing that I've been back and forth on a million times and focusing more, in fact focusing entirely on multiplayer on this channel. It will mean no daily videos because I certainly can't get a video out every day for multiplayer, but maybe 3 or 4 videos a week. And Home Doggy revealing their hand there. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you think. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one. I think it was a good back and forth. Didn't go too well for us, but we just didn't get into the board wipe that we needed all game. But hopefully you all enjoyed it anyway. We'll have to try our luck another day with this deck. Be sure to leave it a like and a subscribe if you did like the video, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.